All right, we're live. Figured it out on the first try.
Awesome. Let's do this.
All right. Well, we've had a 2 week layoff because Jasper's been in California traveling. So um, this is our return to the podcast for our currently 5 to 10 viewers, which is awesome. I really appreciate people watching this because we're just winging this and we don't know what we're doing, but hopefully
Yeah.
bringing some value. Um, but yeah, so here we are. You want to do a little brief check-in about the week or the past little bit? I'll start. I did been playing a ton of pickleball last week. I've made some new friends here in Chicago on the pickleball courts. So, oh, and I saw Kayla Jasper. Kayla is still here doing her internship from North Carolina, Matthew's sister.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
played with her a little bit. Bill came to visit her, so I played with him and Kayla, and yeah, so I made some new pickleball friends. I played like 3 hours yesterday, and then the day before yesterday, it was like 95 degrees and poor air quality, and I played for like 3 hours, and I think I got dehydrated, but fun, good times. And then Ann and I have gone in the lake a few times. This last week it's been hot, so we go over to the ledge and dive in, and that's always fun. The lake feels great. It's always cold and refreshing, and I love to dive, so I usually do quite a few dives off the ledge. It's like 4 or 5 feet above the water off of concrete, into like 10 foot deep water. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, those are my highlights from the past week, I think. And we'll check in about business more. But you want to do a brief thumbnail of your California trip?
Yeah. Yeah. We were just talking about it offline, but it was a fun trip. We started off flew into LA and we drove up to Paso Robles and spent about a day and a half, 2 days there, tasting wines and exploring that area, which was fun. And then came back down and did a little rendezvous in LA Hollywood area. Checked out the Funko Pop Factory, which is really cool.
That's, that sounds
If
so fun.
anybody's, yeah, if anybody's into,
Show your Funko
comic.
Pop. You got to show your.
Yeah, they got this really cool thing there, which I didn't tell you offline, but you make your own Funko, but it's really cool because it's like almost like a vending machine. So you just plug in your little options on your little guy, and then they literally print it right there. It takes them about 10, 15 minutes, and you just come back and pick it up right there, which
Wow.
I didn't know. I thought we were gonna have to ship it or, it'd be a week or two. No, it's literally printed like right there. And because of that, they have kind of limited options with the customization, but I think that's really, really cool. It's like an assembly line. They're just printing these things off. So really cool. And everybody was there. They had like 5 or 6 of those vending machines. Everybody was there making their own little people. So that was fun.
That's awesome.
Uh, but yeah, if anyone's in the LA area, want to check out the Funko Pop store. It's a really cool experience. But yeah, then after that, we kind of toned it down a little bit and went to Thousand Oaks where it's much quieter. And we just relaxed at the hotel for the most part and went out to Malibu, went out to eat a couple times and just relaxed at the pool, relaxed at the hotel, got some work done. So that was a nice kind of wind down to the trip. And then came back home, and it's been great to be back this week. We went to Torchy's, one of my favorite taco places the other day, so that was awesome.
Nice.
And then yeah, but just been enjoying being back in my routine. And went to the gym yesterday. I met this developer, and he was telling me this fun story that DeAndre Hopkins, he plays for the Arizona Cardinals, football player. He actually just got traded to the Tennessee Titans, the football team, and he was in the process of remodeling this house. And there was obviously another pretty big trade that happened in Phoenix this past year, and he sold his house to KD. So I thought that was
Oh,
kind of a
wow.
fun. It's kind of a fun story, and this guy is working on the house literally right next door, so he kind of heard it through the grapevine. But I thought that was pretty cool.
That is
So
cool.
now I technically know where Kevin Durant lives, although we won't disclose that information. But it's cool. It's cool. So
Didn't you see an
um,
NBA player at your hotel too when you were in California?
yeah, we did. We saw Jaren Jackson at the hotel, so that was really cool. We didn't see anybody else from the Grizzlies, but I wasn't trying to really like stalk him out or anything. But we saw Jaren Jackson just pulling up, and he hopped out of like a big van, and he was already ready for the pool and everything. It was pretty funny. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of the rundown for my week. It's a good week, and good trip.
Nice.
Yeah.
God, we haven't done this a couple of weeks. I have to remember the format because we normally do that little check in and then we do some inspiration, right?
Yeah, inspiration and business
Anything
check-in.
that we've, yeah. I didn't really do much reading this week. I've been chipping away at Who Not How, which is always good. And I've actually been reading this tennis book that Michael had on his bookshelf in here about uh, the inner game of tennis. But it's good. It's not, obviously I'm reading it because I love pickleball, and it's like, but it's just like the mental game of tennis, and it's also like it talks about your two brains. It's like the one brain that's the critical brain, and the other brain that knows how to do everything. That's your sort of intuitive brain when you're in the flow state. And it's really just talking about getting out of the way of your critical analytical brain when you're playing tennis or any sport, basketball, pickleball, whatever, and just letting and trusting your body's wisdom. Like he's talking about how he teaches people, and he's learned to say less and less and just let people see things. Like he'll say, all right, here's how I hit a forehand, and he'll hit a forehand a few times, and he'll be like, now you try. And he doesn't tell them, pull your racket back this far, go do an upswing, aim for this or anything. He just like minimal instruction and lets the second self take over. So just cool stuff about,
cool.
how the brain works, and like how we don't need as much instruction or analytics or criticism as most of us apply to ourselves in sports or any other activities. So I've been enjoying that too. And then other than that, I did listen to that Cody Sperber that you told me about with, God, I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who was a ClickFunnels guy. But
oh yeah, Russell Brunson.
Yeah, that was a good one. Enjoyed that. Just cool to see, how he just had an idea and put it into action to improve his own business, and then it became a business that serves a lot of people, and then blew up into where he's at now, which is like he's not going to sell his business until it's at $1 billion valuation. So that's crazy, just to like think of he's got a marketing business or whatever, and he's just trying to figure out a way to get better at it, and then all of a sudden, he just keeps going, and he's got this huge thing. And now he's just all about service. So that's cool to see too, because I've still been in the place of trying to figure out how to get over the hump with revenue and get to the place I want to get. And so it's cool to see people down the road just being really in a place of service, and what do you want to leave as your legacy, rather than how am I going to get to $1 million a year or whatever,
Yeah.
So that's inspiring. And yeah, that's all I got for now. I think, other than, I'm inspired here in the city. I think I've shared photos with you of the spot we go to on the ledge, but it's like sitting on the ledge, swimming in the lake, and then looking at the Chicago skyline in the distance. That's always really inspiring and fun. And then right behind us is a bird sanctuary with all these wildflowers and all these birds that are really happy. Bird watchers, people with big telephoto lenses and stuff. So it's a cool juxtaposition, like all these people happy, having fun, swimming, hanging out, playing music, kicking a soccer ball around, whatever. And then the city, and then the bird sanctuary. So I'm always inspired and happy at that spot. But yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. Yeah.
Now.
Nice. Well, yeah, I watched Steph Curry's documentary last night, and
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, so definitely recommend that. But I mean, everything about his story is inspiring. We already know his story, but it was really cool to see behind the scenes. And we watched that Davidson stuff when it was happening, but I don't remember it very vividly because I was much younger. So it was cool to see a recap of that. And I didn't remember like seeing his earlier journey, because obviously we saw the amazing run they went on when we were watching with Catherine and stuff. But I don't remember like the early stages of his career, because I don't even think I was watching basketball back then. But it was cool to see like just his recruitment process. Like we all knew that he didn't have really anybody recruiting him except for Davidson, and that he got there and everything, and they were kind of betting on him to be, really good. And I didn't know that in his first game he had 13 turnovers, and they showed that in the documentary. Just like they showed all the plays and stuff, and it was just like terrible. But he has those games now still, where he's missing shots or he's making bad passes and stuff. But it was funny because they were like, after that first game, the coaching staff was being interviewed and stuff, and they were literally like, we might just bench this kid. Like, we can't afford to, be this bad. Like,
Yeah.
Because I think that team was mostly like juniors and seniors, and they brought in this freshman point guard they were really betting on, and he just, first game just kind of crap to bed. So
Yeah.
they were literally thinking about benching him. And, thank God they didn't, because they showed his very next game, he had 32 points, and, the rest is history. But it was really cool to see him bounce back from that, and just to see the whole story and stuff. And then just to see that he's still best friends with his like running mate or whatever. Like I think they were both kind of point guards, but they played like the 1 and 2, and he's still best friends with him. And he was over there. They were watching the tournament at Steph's house, and then like Draymond Green was FaceTiming them and talking junk because they were playing Michigan. Davidson was playing Michigan and stuff. So that was fun to see all that stuff. And then obviously inspiring to see Steph's journey from where he was, and then to make it into the league. I remember watching those years when he made it into the league, and he had kind of flashes, but he would just sprain his ankle every single year, and he couldn't play.
Yeah, it seemed
So
like it might not
it
happen
took
for
him.
him.
Yeah, I mean, it took him like 4 or 5 seasons, I think, to even play a full season. So
Yeah.
he had quite the journey, but really cool to see all the backstory and stuff. And then, probably my favorite player. So I really like that one. And then I watched another one with Cody Sperber. He had this dude that I've never heard of before. I don't know if I could find it so I could give you his name, but here it is, William Lamb. So I never heard of this dude before, but that was really interesting. This dude has a program called Upgrade, and it's just about upgrading your mental, your mindset and stuff so that you can program yourself for success essentially. And he talks about using NLP and different techniques to do that. But what was probably most inspiring for me is that he has, a bunch of programs and courses and stuff that you can enroll in, but his top tier program costs $1 million a year. And he said he's actually upgrading his price to $2 million this summer. So
Good for him.
that was just inspiring to me that he's literally charging $2 million a year for a program and getting it, consistently. So that was amazing. But I definitely had some takeaways from that. And one of them, for me, is I did kind of the exercise that he suggested, but I did it for my dream house, because that's one of the things that I'm working towards right now is finding my dream house out here. And so he said that you need like 25 data points or something. That's like the magic number for your brain to really like get to work on something. And so I've been working on that, just really hashing it out. And I got to like 5 or 10 right away, but then I was like really struggling to get to 25, and I'm not there yet. But that was a good thing to hear, that just everyone knows visualization is powerful, but he really went into depth on it, and I really enjoyed that. And he talks about how one of his goals is to have a yacht. And so he started with looking at pictures of yachts, and then going to the marina where he lived, and then he went to Monaco on vacation, and he sat like on a restaurant that overlooks the marina and stuff. And then he's been doing that for like the past 10 years. And he said this fall they're putting in an order for their yacht in Monaco, and I just thought that was really cool. So just a good reminder on the power of visualization and programming your mind for success. So I enjoyed that, but I think those two, that's enough for me.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Can definitely use that. It goes along with thinking big, like we keep talking about that, and everybody talks about it, thinking bigger, and not just settling or, going for what you think you can do, but expanding mindset into bigger and bigger goals and visions.
Yeah, and he even challenged Cody on that podcast, which is kind of cool, because Cody was kind of joking around with him. He was like, "So, like, what if I just paid you $1 million, and like, how big can we grow this thing? Can I get to $100 million or something?" And he was just like, not joking at all, but he was like, "No, that's way too small. Like, if you pay me $1 million, I'm gonna get you to 1 billion or 5 billion or 10 billion."
Wow.
And so he was like, he literally had someone sign up. He couldn't disclose, who they were, but he said he had someone sign up, and I think they have like $20 billion in assets under management. They're like a smaller hedge fund or whatever. And he said their goal is to get to $1 trillion in assets.
Wow.
And he's like, he has no doubt that they'll get there. But he said like that's what his $1 million thing is, because that's why people pay him that much, because they're going to get that big of a return on it. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds like a good one. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
So then after that, we're going into business, right? We're going to do any victories, KPIs you want to check in about, any challenges, goals, commitments, any of that stuff that go along with business. Do you want to kick off on that?
Let's do it.
And then, of course, for any listeners, any tools or tips or tricks or anything that you have that, might be useful for people. I mean, we talk about stuff all the time that we use, but, not everybody's familiar with running a wholesale business.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, maybe I can start with that first, just so it's fresh on my mind. For me, I think if I had to narrow it down to like the top three tools, I would say Podio number one, obviously, and that's subjective. But I think the most important thing in anyone's business would be a good CRM, so that you stay organized and you have an ability to track everything within your business. That includes KPIs, notes, leads, everything, and
Yeah.
keep it all in one place. So for me, that's Podio, but it can be, there's probably hundreds of CRMs out there at this point.
And I've
Number
tried
two,
20 or 25 of them, and I have a spreadsheet. If you want it, just message me and I'll send you the spreadsheet on my notes.
yeah,
And I actually did a major deep dive on CRMs and tried one other one before I switched to Podio.
yeah, you did all the hard work for them, so that's a great idea. That'd be a great share if anyone's looking for a CRM breakdown. But yeah, that'll probably be number one for me. Number two would probably be probably launch control would be my number two. And obviously, I think that varies per market, but for us, the texting has been the best marketing channel this year and last year. So, and launch control, I've kind of done a similar thing. I don't have a spreadsheet and great notes and everything, but I've tried almost every texting platform there is, and launch control is by far the best, and also not just the best, but the easiest to use in my opinion, and the
Yeah.
easiest to get started with. And they also have a great support team, so all of that kind of goes hand in hand, and I think that makes them the best in my opinion. So I'll say those two, and then if I had to pick a third, there's a bunch that I'm looking at, but I'll probably say smartphone, because I know that before I was using a different phone system, and smartphone is seamlessly integrated to Podio. So for me, it's makes things super simple. You can just click to call, click to text. They also have a dialer feature, and everything is just seamlessly integrated. And I think they have other integrations with other CRMs too. But yeah, that's probably my top three tools: CRM, marketing platform, and then a phone system. So I think with just those three, you can probably get pretty far. Um, but I can go into my business check-in. I'll start with KPI. So for this past week, we sold two, closed one deal, got three contracts, got 180 leads, and we made 57 offers. So
Wow. It's a lot of
pretty
offers.
good week overall. Yeah. Pretty much hit the mark on uh, three of those KPIs, well, four of those KPIs. The leads were great. Offers are great. I want to see at least 10 offers a day. So 57 is over that. So that's great. Three contracts. That's my goal currently per week. So that hit that goal. And then selling two is also my goal currently for each week. So pretty much hit all the targets. And I guess closings, I don't really necessarily have a target for because you can't always control it. But if you hit the rest of them, you should be able to hit your goals consistently, hit the
Yeah.
rest of them consistently. So yeah, that was a pretty good week for us KPI wise. In terms of victories, that closing was a victory because we contracted that deal last week, or not last week, like the week before last when I was out of town, and then got it sold and got it closed. So like start to finish was like 10 days. So that was awesome. And it was good to work with a new buyer on this one. I like working with new buyers, and everything was super smooth on his side of things. Did have a slight hiccup where our notary accepted a faulty POA, so we had to get the docs redone. But
Oh,
they jumped back into action really quick and got it done. So that was awesome. We got it just closed the following day. So that was great. And then another victory is my new bookkeeper. I told you that I wouldn't recommend them until I had some experience with them, but it's been a great experience so far. It's been about a month since I signed up, and after we did the onboarding and stuff, that stuff took about a week. Just getting them access to everything, and talking them through my business and everything. After that, they got started on the cleanup of my books because I knew that they were messed up from the people I was working with, and
that's
they
too
completed
bad.
that.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, but they completed that in like 2 weeks, and then they sent me a massive email, which was really helpful for me because one of the things I didn't like about my previous bookkeepers is just a lack of communication. I just had no idea what was going on. And with these guys, it's totally the opposite. So they not only did they fix my books in like 2 weeks for the whole year, which I thought was pretty quick, they sent me a detailed breakdown on everything they changed and why. So I don't need to necessarily understand why because that's why I hired them, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so now I can know when I go in it on my end, like I can know, okay, this is why this is classified this way or whatever. And so they fixed everything and they showed me exactly why. And they sent me this awesome monthly report for June, and I'll get that every month now, but they show me just everything. And I think I can pull these reports myself, but I don't necessarily know how,
Yeah.
and don't want to learn. So I really appreciate them doing that. And it's literally everything. Like they show me my profit and loss. They show me my profit and loss by month, like split by month. And then they show a really cool thing, profit per property. So for the properties that I buy and sell rather than wholesale, they have all my expenses per property and profit like per property. And then they have gross profit, expenses, net profit, like for every property. So that was really cool. And then they send the balance sheet obviously every month and all the other basic stuff. But there was like 10 reports in total. So that was really cool.
That's great.
And then they also offer, if I wanted it, like a month end call to go over all those reports, with them. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, so that was a victory for me to switch over to those guys and have a good experience so far. So I appreciate that. And what else this week? My other cold callers have been crushing it. My new cold callers from Matt Larson's company have been crushing it. So that's been really nice. Oh, the SMS team has been crushing it too. Since I switched Sammy over, now we have 5 people on the SMS team, and they're crushing it.
Wow, 5 people.
So that's awesome. Yeah, and then one of my virtual assistants. Well, actually, technically now we have like 4.5 because I put him on another task, so he's like just kind of popping back and forth. But I had an idea to put one of my guys that I've had since I started this business, put him on a different task. And it was to go through all the register of deeds websites. So it took me like an hour to set up, just made a bunch of videos and stuff showing him how to use, because every county is a little bit different. But he's going through every county that we work in North Carolina, and he's searching for the multiple entities that New Western has. So he searches for them as the grantor. And then when you search for them as a grantor, it shows all the properties that they're double closing their buyers. So we're just taking all their buyers. And so we're doing that.
A little payback for New Western.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even payback; it's public record, right? But
Well, it's
right
kind
away
of
I thought
payback
about
though
that.
after they've done some crappy deals with you.
Yeah, definitely. But so I'm super excited about that. Just in Durham County, and I'm just doing from the beginning of 2022 until present, and then I'm going to have them check back monthly and add new ones. So anything over 20 or older than 2022, I'm not doing that because who knows if they're still active. But so we're doing that in every county, and he just did Durham yesterday, and we had like 200 buyers. And some of these guys I already know, but a bunch of them I don't. So that was a huge victory for me. And as he goes through like the 10 to 15 counties we work in, that's going to be thousands of buyers that I didn't have, and so it's just going to be phenomenal. And it's probably going to pretty much eliminate the need of me ever even thinking to use them again in the future. So it's awesome. So I appreciate him for doing that. And as a victory, actually one of my buddies asked me, he was like, could we like somehow find out the properties or the buyers that New Western sells to? And then I was like, yeah, we can. So I just put it into place immediately. So shout out to him. I told him how to do it too. But shout out to him. It's awesome. So yeah, there's that. And I don't know if I had any other victories that I wanted to share with you for this week specifically. For challenges, probably my biggest challenge this week was dealing with the weather issues. I don't know if you dealt with those this week, but I had 2 of my callers and then Michael, my acquisition, dealing with weather issues over there. I think it's the stormy season again. And
We had a typhoon.
So I think we lost like.
Talking about the Philippines here, we both have VAs in the Philippines, and they had a typhoon there this past week.
Yeah, so he was dealing with that all week. I think he had like 1 or 2 full days, maybe just 1 full day, and he tried to log in where he could. I was like, dude, just stay safe. It's no biggie. But it's a biggie for me, but it's obviously his safety's priority. So
yeah,
I stepped into acquisitions, and it was actually good. I locked down 2 deals myself this week. So 2 of those contracts are mine. So
nice.
boom, that's awesome. Yeah, that was kind of fun, but at the same time, I am really happy to have him back. He came back Friday, and I think the weather's improving and the storm's moving away. So hopefully next week will be normalized. But that was probably my biggest challenge, just to kind of be dealing with additional responsibilities there. And obviously on the cold caller side too, I lost 2 of my cold callers. Not lost them, but like they were dealing with the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit less leads on the cold call side, but thankfully my SMS team is all in India, so I don't have to deal with that. So SMS leads were coming in hot all week to make up for it, so that was good. But yeah, that was a challenge for me. Another challenge for me that I don't really need to have feedback on. But the seller that I thought we were gonna close this week just totally, didn't close, and so now we actually have to file suit. So that's kind of a bummer. Because I thought we were gonna be able to do it like grown-ups, but we're not gonna be able to do that. So
Is this the same
I'll see
person
if
that you threatened to file suit with before?
Yeah, so the attorney sent him a letter, and then after that, he immediately called them, and he was like, "Okay, I'll close it." And they were like, "Okay, when can you close it?" And then we scheduled a date for the 27th. And then he called me, I think on like Monday of this week or something. He was like, "I'm not going to close." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you know what this means?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And so we're just going to file suit.
Does
So I
he
don't
have
know
a
what that
different
process
offer?
is
Is that
going to.
why it's not going to close?
Yeah, so that was the initial reason for him just
Is
trying
this
to
the
get a
guy
hold of
where they
us.
had the offer from Short Sleeves, or is this different?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So same dude. Same dude, and then I was originally going to try to work with short sleeves. His team just like totally dropped the ball and just seemed like they didn't care at all. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to file suit. I'm not going to wait for them to
Are they still
try to
trying
help
to
me.
close with the guy?
I don't think so, but maybe. I mean, that would be kind of
Or
pretty shady if they
he
if
just
they were.
knows or thinks he can get more money, so now he's not going to close with you?
Yeah. So yeah, we're just. And the ironic thing about it was that he called me and told me that right, literally the next day, because we target a lot of the same counties. Literally the next day, he comes in as a new lead into my system, telling my SMS team he's interested to sell. So it's like, dude, you're lying, because he told me, he's like, no, we're just not selling anymore. And I'm like, okay, I didn't tell him on the phone. I'm not going to be a jerk. And I'm like, dude, you're literally lying to me,
Yeah.
And then I just have proof come in the very next day. So I sent that all to the attorney and
What
everything.
about
But
people? I get people sometimes who say, I just decided to give it to my son. I just decided to give it
oh
to my
yeah,
daughter.
he
And
used that one.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah, a lot of
yep, he
people
used
say
that one.
that, and I'm never sure whether they're for real or not. Like, I've talked to people, and I'm like, okay, this guy's actually telling the truth. The son wants it, and he's going to give it to him. But sometimes I think people just say that, like, oh, I just changed my mind. I'm going to give it to my kids or whatever.
I would say it's 99% a lie when they say that stuff.
Yeah,
And I used to believe it, but it's just not true. I've just seen it so many times.
yeah,
And like I told you about that one a few months ago. We don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but he literally tried to tell me like they were going through some hardships or something, and they really needed the funds and stuff. And I'm like, dude, we were already ready to close. You would already had the funds. And so it's like people would just come up with anything. And
yeah.
I used to just have a soft spot for it, but then I just realized that unfortunately they're just lying. So yeah, but we'll see how that works. I'll keep you posted on the status. Hopefully it'll come back around, but I don't know. We'll see. But there was that. That was a bit of a challenge because I was excited. I had everything ready, which is also kind of a bummer because I had the lender ready, had the insurance ready, had the agent ready, had the junk removal guy ready. Like we were just going to jump on it. I was going to clean it out. We're going to list it soon, and then cancel all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Hopefully we can get it closed in August sometime. But on the other side of things, I had a memorandum that came back into play on another property in Durham, and this actually came back into play a few weeks ago. And seller's daughter called me, and she was frustrated. She was like, "Why is this memorandum on the property?" And I explained to her, and she was still kind of frustrated. And then at the end of the call, she was like, "Okay, well, this call was being recorded. I'm sending this on to my attorney." I'm like, "Okay, go for it." And so I emailed her all of our paperwork and everything. And then I didn't hear from her, and I was just like, "Okay, she's probably going to try to sue me or something." But she reached back out to me when I was in California, and basically she agreed to move forward on her sale. And so that was a huge victory for me, because not only did she like apologize for being rude and stuff, but she's going to move forward on the sale. And so we got the deal rolling, sold it this week, and we'll close in a couple of weeks. So that was a huge victory for me to get a deal back from a memorandum. And in addition to that, I had the two that I already told you about that came back into play, and I got a little fee from them. So
So
that's just
crazy
been a
because I
huge
haven't had
victory for me.
success with any of them yet.
Yeah, we'll give it time, and I think they'll come back to you. But so that was a victory for me because so far this year, this will be the third property that I'm having some sort of profit stemming from taking that action. So
And
I'm
you're
grateful
just
for
getting
that.
the memorandum notarized and filing it, but you're not getting the seller's signature on it on these.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And I sent you that course that I purchased, but it's from Logan Fulmer,
Yeah.
and I watched it. Haven't watched the full course, but I watched his full video on memorandums, and it was him and another attorney speaking on them. And they're obviously in Texas. I think every state's different, but they did say that at least in Texas, and this was an attorney speaking, he was like, as long as you have spelled out in your contract that the seller gives you permission to file a memorandum, you're good to go. And
Oh, okay. So
if
I
you
got to put
don't,
that in
though,
my contract.
Yeah, he was like kind of trying to scare people away that don't have that. He said, if you don't have that in your contract, then technically your memorandum is not valid. And if someone was to ask for your contract and they saw that you don't have that statement in there, then they could just basically void your memorandum automatically and they wouldn't even care. Um, so that was good feedback for me. I already had that in my agreement, from a couple of years ago, but that was good just to hear that from an attorney.
I don't
And
have that,
so,
so I need to know that. So for anybody who's listening to the pod, it's just a memorandum of contract that you file with the county that the property's in. And if the seller bails on you, it gives you the opportunity for to block them from selling it to somebody else, because it will come up as a cloud on the title when the closing attorney tries to close with somebody else.
yeah,
So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about memorandums, and Jasper's had some success with them. I haven't had any success with them yet, but I've filed a few, so we'll see. But yeah,
yeah, they'll come back to you.
all right. That's great news that you're getting something back. So yeah, so what you're having is you've had a couple people pay you a fee to be able to close with somebody else, and then you've had this person come back and close with you. So that's great.
Yeah, which is even better than getting the fee. I'd obviously prefer that. So
Yeah,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. So yeah, that was a victory. I guess I could have included that in victories. Uh,
yeah,
but
definitely a victory. Jason didn't say anything to us. We closed a deal recently where we had filed a memorandum, and then the seller came back, and when he closed it, he never said to us, "Hey, you need to release this memorandum" or anything. He just didn't say anything. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
was just wondering what was up with that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's closed plenty of mine that have memorandums too. So I don't know if he sees it and doesn't care, or if he just doesn't see it.
Well, he believes
Uh,
that you have to have the seller signature, so I think that's why.
yeah, and my memorandum, I also include that just conveyance of the property to my company or anyone I assign it to will release the memorandum automatically. So that's how I get around that, because I don't want to sell these properties and have to go back and do terminations for all these, because then I'm double paying all these fees and wasting time. So I'd include that wording,
Yeah,
and that's worked for me so far, because I've had a couple buyers and they're actually, I should tell you this too, because it's even been more than 3 memorandums this year. It's been like 10, because I've had numerous buyers reach out to me who bought property from me and then later tried to flip it, and they're like, "Hey, my attorney said there's a memorandum on there. Like, can you release this?" And I'm like, "Sorry about that, but it clearly states that in this language that it's already been released because you performed on our contract." And so that's even more, proof that it's been working so far for me in North Carolina this year, because those
that's
attorneys
great.
on the selling side have been coming back to them and being like, "Hey, you need to release this." And thankfully, most of them have just released it with my like approval or whatever. But one of them did make me file a termination, so that was kind of annoying. But it's proof that it's holding up, so that's good.
Yeah, that's great. Great
Um,
news.
but yeah, to get back on track, other challenges for this week. Um, I don't know. I guess one of the challenges was that Jason told me he was going out of town on a week and then changed it. So
That was a
now
challenge
he's
for me
going
too.
now he's going out of town a different week. And thankfully I didn't take as much action on that, because I still have a couple of deals that I need to sell. But I was like, he told me what the week he was going out of town. So I was like, boom. I emailed him. I was like, when can we schedule around this? And then I was like, okay. So I was about to lump a bunch of closings on this week. And then he's like, actually, I'm going out of town this week. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So
For us, it meant we had to move 2 closings that we just dropped into the week that now he's going away, and we were happy because
yeah,
they were quick coming up. So Jason is
same
our
here.
the closing attorney that both Jasper and I use here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Went on vacation, but he changed his vacation week, so that was a bummer.
Yeah, so same here, and it's with this one that I just mentioned to you. And like I was really hoping get this closed quick, make the seller happy, because she was, frustrated at the beginning with the memorandum and everything. And so we had it scheduled on the 9th, and then he's like, "I'm going out of town." I'm like, "Okay." So now I'm going to try to figure that out tomorrow. Talk to the both parties and see how we can move that around. I
Yeah,
don't think we could probably close it this coming week. Then that's probably too soon, so we'll probably have to wait. Um, but thankfully, yeah, it was only one for me. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer. And it's also like it's hypocritical for me to say this, definitely, but I feel like there should be some way for him to close deals while he's out of town, and not him maybe, but someone in his office. And I'm not at that place in my business, so I totally understand. But I think maybe for him that he could put that into place where someone else has authority to close and stuff on
yeah.
his behalf.
Or he could get another attorney to help him out and give him a small piece of the action, or something. Yeah,
Yeah. And thankfully he doesn't go on vacation that much. So thankfully we don't have to deal with it that often. But
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I guess that was another small challenge for me. And then I think that's about it. I mean, yeah, I think that's about it. I did have one that I wanted to talk to you about. We can talk about offline though. Contracted this deal, and this dude is in pre-foreclosure. He needs to sell by the 14th of September, so it actually gives you a little bit of time. But I contracted it just because he was super interested to sell, and the numbers kind of worked on paper. I still don't have photos, but I think it might be a little tight for wholesale. But I think we could pitch up too because he's super ready to sell. So
Okay.
just thinking maybe we could work on that one together.
Yeah, I'd love to do another sub too if we can make it happen. I love that creative stuff.
Yeah, yeah. This one's in Fayetteville. I think he told me he doesn't know exactly, but the balance is around 270, and ARV is like 500. So there's some spread there. But I think the property is pretty bad. So we'll see. We'll see once we get photos.
Okay, cool.
But I think that's it for me. We can switch over.
Awesome. Sounds like a good week, other than the storms in Philippines.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I didn't write down a lot of victories. So maybe they'll come when I talk about KPIs. We sold 3 this week, so that was a victory for me. We've had Dispo's been a little bit slow, but it's been partly slow because we've had a little bit of slow acquisitions. Like I had a 6 contract week like 3 weeks ago, and then I had 2 0 contract weeks. So I think we have like 10 or 12 properties on our slate. Our business model is a little bit different than yours with the land. We end up canceling more deals, I think, than you do. So if we have 10 or 12, sometimes then we end up figuring out, like 2 weeks ago, I think I canceled 3 deals because they we're getting negative feedback from buyers and stuff. So, my KPIs are a little bit different because you're doing houses. I think, I just have to put, I think I have to get 20 contracts. I'm looking at my goals here, 20 contracts to sell 16, right? So like 80% of what I contract ends up selling. And then, similar another, with title issues and other land issues or whatever, nobody closes everything they sell, I think, but we have to sell like 16 to close 12 or something like that. Hopefully that's improving. Anyway, we sold 3. One of the victory was one of those was that manufactured home I told you about that I contracted. I've been working in acquisitions more and analyzing the houses that come in through, we market for land, but then we'll get like, I don't know, few people each day who want to sell a house also. So generally I look at those leads and follow up with the sellers. So I contracted that house a couple of weeks ago. Seller's a really great guy. We got a good price on it. We've shown it to quite a few people. And then we went under contract last week on it. With a very sort of high maintenance driver personality real estate broker who's also an investor. And so then we, I was like, okay, we'll just do this. But then they went and got a septic inspection and then told us they wanted a $15,000 price reduction based on the septic inspection. And I knew that like I wasn't going to go back to the seller and tell him it was a 15K, ask him for a reduction. He already gave me a pretty good price on it. And he's a really good guy. And so then I was like, I'm going to call bullshit on this. We're going to get our own inspection. So then I, put my team to work finding an inspector for this. And then the assistant for this agent's, texting me, calling me every day. When's your inspection? When's your inspection? You're going to give us a discount. And I was like, I'll let you know when it is. And then they're doing the whole driver thing of like, well, we're looking at other properties, so we need to know because we got to go to our next property. I'm like, I understand. You do what you got to do, And so then we got our inspection, and our inspector was like, yeah, I see what they're saying about the vegetation growing over the, its septic system has the drainage field with the pipes, right? And so they were like, yeah, well, there's stuff growing over those pipes, and we're going to have to clear that. And it's going to, I was like, first of all, with the assistant for this person, this agent, I was like, can you just break that down for me, how it's going to cost $15,000? Because you can install an entirely new system for $5,000 or $6,000. So you're telling me there's $15,000 for a septic system to repair it? I'm not getting it. Can you walk me through this?
Yeah.
So I guess they just were hoping that we were completely ignorant and like maybe beginning wholesalers, and they were just going to put one over on us. But anyway, I just went, our inspector was like, yeah, it's not an issue. It's working fine right now. It's been recently pumped. You should watch out for the vegetation and trim it or cut it or pull it. Be careful when you do it. But, I don't see an issue. So I just went back to them and said, and they didn't deposit their MD, so we were already without a contract anyway. But I just went back to them and said, we're not going to be offering a discount. Let me know if that's a deal breaker for you, if you want to go forward. And then I haven't heard from him since then, but we got another buyer over the weekend who paid us $3,000 more than this buyer was going to pay us.
Sweet.
Trying to grind us on price too. So
That's awesome.
So we locked that down Saturday for $3,000 more.
That's huge.
Yeah, and closing in a week. So yeah, that was a victory for sure. And it was a victory to just like, I mean, these personalities. People are like, got to have everything now. They're calling you, they're texting you, and it's like, and they're trying to offer us really low. And then I was like, well, we got 3 other people looking at this, so I'm not going to accept that offer. And they're like, well, I'll offer you $1,000 more, because I told them somebody had offered us. It's just like they're trying to nickel and dime, So
yeah,
it was nice to just set boundaries with them and get, not like succumb to all that pressure and just be like, we're fine. We got plenty of people and get a better offer ultimately. Probably an easier close, easier process, the whole thing. So that's a victory. Another victory is within those 3 solds, we sold another one to a neighbor. And this is just a good tip for anybody who's doing wholesaling. One of the things we do, and we're doing land, so maybe this is different with houses, probably is, but we send neighbor letters. So one of our team will pull up the property on LandGlide, which is a tool that we use. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. But you can get a lot of property information with LandGlide. But we'll just pull it up on LandGlide and you can see all the neighbors and their mailing addresses. And we send a letter to anybody's property who's touching the property we just got and anybody across the street. And we just say, hey, we just got this property. If you're interested in it, let us know. We'll give you a neighbor discount, that kind of thing. And we've sold a handful of properties this year to neighbors because we send those neighbor letters. And it saves any marketing. It saves a lot of, if you can sell a property to a neighbor, I don't have the number in front of me, but I bet we've closed 3 or 4 deals with neighbors out of the 25 or 30 deals we've closed this year so far. So, I recommend that, but that's also a win because it's just always nice when we just get a call from a neighbor, we talk to them, we lock down a deal, and they usually close quickly, and they either want the lot next door to build a house for a family member, or they want a bigger yard, or they want to buy it because they don't want somebody to build next to them or behind them or whatever. So it's a good little trick that's worked for us. So that's a victory whenever we get one of those deals. And other than that, my new acquisitions guy, Lucky, great name, bringing some luck to us. But he's been working Saturdays, and I really appreciate him for that. But it's bumped up our lead flow and the amount of texts that we're able to put out. So he's worked the last few Saturdays. He was in between jobs before, and he's happy to have the extra hours and make some extra money for his family. He does a great job, just crushes it. And we've been working side by side on Saturdays. We do check-in, when we start the shift, and a little bit of training because he's still, he's been on the team for a month now. And then he just jumps in and crushes it and pushes me leads or puts them on a sheet or whatever. And then, so it's just bumped up our amount of texts we're able to put out. So I could segue into KPIs. We put out 23,000 texts this week with 6 days. So that's almost 4,000 texts a day with our, pretty much maxing out our plan. We haven't upgraded our launch control plan yet. Jasper mentioned launch control as a tool, and it's also great for us for texting. And like you said, Jasper, the support is great. We have another team call actually tomorrow with who does the sort of review of your account and gives you tips and ways to improve. So we did one with her 2 weeks ago, and we're going to do another one with her tomorrow just to, see how we progressed since our last meeting. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's always great to take advantage of whatever free services that things you subscribe to are offering, because a lot of, launch control's got great services, and those insights that we got the last meeting were really helpful for us. So we put out 23,000 texts. We've been doing that for the last few weeks since Lucky's been on board, 23,000 texts for the last few weeks. Prior to that, before we upgraded our account, we were at like between 11 and 14,000 a week. So that's,
nice.
Big jump. It's like almost 2x what we were doing. Our offers are a little bit lower. I don't want to compare myself to you, but we're doing something different with our offers where we're doing a lot of verbal or text offers, and then the actual written offers. We had 17 this week on 121 warm leads. We did 3 contracts this week, which is great because we had a little bit of a drought, as I mentioned. So,
Yeah.
and same as you with Creasa, our acquisitions person being out for a couple of days with the storms up in the north, I ended up doing a lot of acquisitions. So, I did do 2 of those properties with one seller, but I locked that down, so that was good. And
Sweet.
we closed one this week, so that's nice to keep the closings going. Nice to get one in under the wire before the month ends too. And then we had one buyer that we were supposed to. That's more of a challenge, but we had one that was supposed to close this week that was canceled by the buyer. But I think the victory in that is that it was an owner finance deal, and this guy was flaky the entire time. You know, it's like one of these buyers where you're like wondering if he's ever going to close for real, and he just kept being flaky. So finally, he messaged the attorney on closing day and said, "I'm not going to be able to close this. You know, I just want to check with you about getting my earnest money back." And to his credit, our attorney said, "Sorry, you're not getting your earnest money back. You're in breach of contract." So
Awesome.
so that was
That's awesome.
nice. So then
That's huge.
I asked the closing attorney to deduct any expenses he had for the deal and remit the balance to us. And he said he would do that, which is great because we've been talking about this issue of whether we have to do a termination of contract in order to get earnest money, which, you know, for people who are watching or listening new to wholesaling, like some lawyers will say you have to have a termination of contract signed by buyer and seller in order to release the EMD. And very few buyers are going to have the integrity to say, "Yeah, my bad, I will sign a termination of contract and release the EMD."
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it, they don't want to let go of their money and they won't sign it. So Jasper and I have been working on getting it so that we don't need a termination of contract, like getting our agreements shaped so that the attorney feels safe to release the earnest money without having a termination of contract. So that's a victory that he's our closing attorney said he would just release that money to us without having to do that.
Definitely.
Because otherwise that money's just sitting there in limbo, and the buyers say 90% of buyers are never going to sign that termination of contract. They're going to be like, "Screw you."
I mean, I would say 100%.
Yeah.
I
think there are a few people with integrity who are just like, "My bad, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. You're right, you're entitled to it." But I think that's like somewhere between 1 and 10 out of 100, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, that's a victory. 17 offers, 3 contracts, 1 closed, 3 sold. We have currently have about 42,000 in escrow. That's looking pretty solid, so that's nice. Yeah. And our revenue, I'm still, my revenue goal for the year has been the big thing for me. I felt a lot of pressure about it when I was preparing for this meeting. I was feeling like discouraged some, which is good. Like, I feel good about it. I feel good that I'm feeling the pain that I in previous years had felt in October, November, December. I'm feeling that pain right now in June and July. And I think that's a good thing because it's motivating me to try and make changes and get on track with where I want to be. So we're at, let's see. Currently, we're at like, what's 2/5 in fraction form. We're at like 40% of our revenue goal for the year. So that means I still have 60% of it to hit. 2 divided by 5 is 40. Yeah, we're at 40% of revenue, and we got 7 months under our belt. So we got 5 months to ramp things up. I think it's doable. It's encouraging. Like, our Q2 revenue was more than 2x of Q1 revenue. Our Q3 revenue is on track, with July pretty much in the books to be more than Q2. So if we can continue to trend up, I think we can hit it. I mean, we're at more, let's see. Yeah. Anyway, so there's pressure, but I think we're trending in the right direction. I think my biggest challenge right now, talking about increasing revenue in a pretty big way, but not a unattainable way. Again, let's think big, right? It's very easy to a lot of people's perspective. So what I'm trying to do, we talked about this when we were doing our email check-ins while you were traveling, is just like, what do I need to do to maximize my revenue or to increase my revenue? over the next 5 months. I think, one of the big things I'm seeing, working in acquisitions another couple of days and this week is just we need to be more effective at our lead management. We need to make sure that every lead that's coming in is getting the attention it deserves. That, it comes down to like when you're responding to people on text, making sure you're reading the conversation and responding appropriately to the messaging that's going on in the conversation, not just doing quick replies just to get the text sent out. You know what I mean? It comes down to calling people and getting them on the phone as early as possible and qualifying seller leads to see who's actually a warm lead and who's just a tire kicker or a cold lead that needs to go in a follow-up sequence. It's putting everybody in a follow-up sequence. They either need to be, a DNC, which is a do not call or do not text, or they need to be, in a follow-up sequence, right? It's one or the other.
Yep,
it's
100%.
yes, and we're on track for a contract, or it's some sort of follow-up sequence for every person who responds to us via text or via direct mail. We're still having some direct mail leads trickling in. So the jury's still out as to whether I need another person in acquisitions to manage my leads before I don't want to do any more lead volume until I feel like we're better organized with our follow-ups and with our process, which I think we're getting to. It might take me, another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe less. But that's my biggest challenge is that lead management and making sure that nobody's slipping through the cracks, that people who, have expressed interest are getting follow-ups consistently, and that, we're correctly qualifying or categorizing people into warm, cold, hot. I had Giselle took it on herself, my systems guru, took it on herself this last week to go through our CRM, our Podio, and just look at all the different lead statuses for seller leads and find people who had sort of slipped through the cracks or needed attention or needed follow-ups. And she created a follow-up sequence and put everyone in that category, which were hundreds of leads, into follow-ups, so that now we're getting responses from people who had sort of slipped through the cracks. And so that's exciting. I feel like there are enough leads in my system right now to get the contracts that we need to get to get to the the sales goals we want to get to without me having to ramp up launch control. And I just want to make sure, it's like a growing pains thing. It's like quality and effectiveness and efficiency first, and get everything, a strong foundation. And then once we know that and we feel like we don't have enough leads to process, then we ramp up. But right now I feel like we have enough leads. We're just not managing them as effectively as we could. So that's my biggest challenge, probably, that we're working on, but it's probably my biggest challenge at the moment. And so then the conversation comes into that you and I have had is like, do I do some marketing campaigns for houses, because I can probably make a bigger dollar amount on a house transaction in general than I'm making on these land transactions. Our average land deal for the year is just below 7K, I think, so, we do 30 deals so far this year, maybe, we need to do a lot of deals to make the revenue I want to make at 30K. I mean, at 7K, or we need to ramp up our per deal profit or get more profitable deals, like we can do maybe with some houses or other types of properties. And, so it's like, I don't want to divert my attention and divert the team's focus and create another area of growing pain that like causes us to take a step back. So that's my fear about it. But I also want to ramp up our revenue, and maybe we need to do a test campaign where we market for houses and see how that goes, So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And maybe I just need to say, hey, I'm going to be an acquisitions guy for a little while, and I'm going to talk to all the seller leads that come in for houses and see what I can do, and let the other team members just continue with the text leads and the land leads for now. Until and then maybe if that's successful, I hire another acquisitions person to manage the houses, whatever. So probably where I'm headed is another person in acquisitions, but I'm just trying to make sure we're organized first and know what we're doing. And we're making the leads have correctly before we start to add more leads in, No,
that's a good point. Definitely.
But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's my business check-in for now. Yeah. How to be more efficient and effective with seller leads, how to maximize leads. Those are my questions I wrote down in challenges. So, and then do I go for houses now? But
Awesome.
we're already getting more house leads. So it's, like this one I just mentioned that we're under contract on. So maybe I just need to filter, make more. I actually talked to another seller with a house over the weekend and made another offer on another one. So it is happening to some degree. But yeah.
Oh, sweet. That's good.
That's my business in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think what you mentioned with Giselle is awesome. That's something that I should delegate, but that's something that I do on a weekly basis. I go through my Podio and you guys are using the drip sequences, right? Like the drip follow-ups.
Yeah. I mean, we use them more in launch control, but we also have them in Podio.
Yeah.
You don't push
so
everything.
That's one thing I do weekly.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's one thing that I do weekly is I go through the statuses. So in Podio, you can create up to 12 drips. So in launch, it's up to 10, which just means 12 messages that will automatically send in the background. And so every week, I need to delegate it, but every week I do it because it's one of those tasks that I'm like, oh, it only takes 15 minutes, right? So every week I do it and I go through two things. So first thing is I go through, just click on all of my leads in the whole system and the leads that aren't dead. If we mark a lead as dead, then that means it's the same as do not contact. So it's like we're just not going to contact them again. If they specifically ask, like, don't contact me again, or I'll report you, or whatever, we just put them as dead. Every other lead, I go weekly, and I click on first. I click on what it's called nurture campaign in Podio, and I see any leads that don't have one set. We want every single lead, same as launch control, if they're not dead, to have a nurture campaign set. So I go through there. And thankfully, my team is very good at this. So every week there's, I don't know, anywhere from 20 to 40, I would say, that kind of slip through the cracks, don't have something set. So I'll just go through there and set those all according to the conversation. 1 month, 1 week, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. I'll set a drip campaign in Podio. And then when you set those drip campaigns, another thing will happen is once they're done, unfortunately, once they're done with the 12 messages, Podio just turns it off.
Yeah.
And then they're sitting in a turn off status.
Yeah.
So that's the second action I take every week. So I go through and I look at all the ones that are turned off and I have to manually return those on. So it sounds like you might be already doing that, but if not,
I think you can set up a workflow so that you get an alert when somebody is and when a follow-up sequence ends.
Okay, I could do that.
Giselle is working on now in our business is like if a follow-up sequence ends, you set up a trigger to send a message to whoever manages that lead to reset it or do whatever it needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, that's good feedback. I can definitely set that up. I was looking myself to see if there's some sort of way I could create a workflow that would automatically re-engage, but I couldn't figure it out myself. To when they turn off to automatically restart that drip thing, but I couldn't figure that out. So if you figure that out, let me know. But,
yeah, Giselle will probably figure it out. She's good at that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that when you speak about that inspires me to bring on that position, just kind of like a Podio assistant specifically that just helps me with Podio. I think that would be a good position for me, maybe just part-time. But in terms of your other challenges for houses, I'm all for it. I don't want to, convince you to switch your focus entirely. But I will say, in my opinion, I think analyzing houses and teaching your team to analyze houses is much simpler than analyzing land because they're much more cookie cutter and much more similar from case to case. Like every house is more similar, I think, than every piece of land is. And obviously, we probably have differing opinions because that's all you do, and this is all I do mostly. So,
yeah.
But I think also what I mentioned with you with that calculator, for the most part, most houses when you use that comes within pretty close of where you want to be. So I've just been using that. But even if not, I think it typically takes me less time when I was comping a house. It takes me much less time to comp a house than to comp a piece of raw land.
Yeah.
So just in terms of you like transitioning your team over, I think it could be easier than you might think to kind of transition them if you wanted to.
Yeah, thank you. I've definitely had resistance to it because everybody's so well versed in land now.
Yeah, I don't think you should drop plan at all, but maybe sprinkle in like one marketing campaign a month or something. See how it does
Yeah.
with houses. Um, but another thing I heard on that William Lamb podcast that I wanted to share just made me think of it. He shared something pretty close to the top of that podcast that I've heard before. I think you've watched this guy also. I think his name is Charlie Rocket or something. It was like his nickname, and he was like really big for a while. I think it was an influencer, but I haven't seen him in a while. But one of the things that he shared that William Lamb shared was just that success doesn't have to be hard. And people always embrace like the hustle culture, the grind culture, because like people like Gary Vee and other people, they preach that. They're just like hustle, 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 work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. And this dude said it, and I've heard it, like I said, a couple different people have said it, but it's just like, what if success was easy? And what if you went through life with that framework? They're like, hey, I'm going to make whatever amount I'm going to make this year, and it's going to be easy. It's going to be an easy process for me. Deals are going to flow to me. And, it goes along with the visualization piece, but it's also just a mindset shift
Yeah.
where it's like when you make the mindset shift, like it's the same as if you shift your mind, like, I don't want to ever do a $5,000 deal. I'm only doing $10,000. I'm only doing 5-figure deals now. That's the same shift as going, I'm never doing a 5-figure deal. I'm only doing 6-figure deals. It's the same shift. But for some reason, and I'm talking to myself too, but for some reason it's like harder to make that shift, even though it's the same exact thing. And it just like reminded me of that because he said that a couple of different times. He was like, what if success was easy? And what if you didn't have to work hard? And what if you didn't have to struggle and things just flow to you? And so that was just something that I want to remind myself of, every day. But, maybe it can be easy to reach our goals and it doesn't have to be a struggle and deals don't have to fall out and sellers don't have to go behind, like what if everything just wasn't like that?
Yeah.
That we just chose to believe it was like that. So it was. So I don't know. That was really inspiring for me to hear that from him. And he said it better than I did, but just wanted to share that as a reminder for both of us.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. That's like the Abraham stuff that I read and that I've shared with you. That's what they say. It's like, it can be easy. It's a game. It's really just a game.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Like if you just look at it as a game and you believe that your life can be easy and things are always working out for you, then that's what you'll get.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that too. Like things are always working out for us if we let them.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a key point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
But
that's a good one to close on.
Yeah, it just got
actually.
me thinking.
That's
like,
great thought to end on.
Yeah, we could close on it, but you got me thinking about it earlier when you said something about the Russell Brunson podcast, because you said something like he's talking about not selling until he gets to $1 billion, and we're over here trying to make $1 million, and it's just like it's the same battle. He fights the same battles. He has deals fall out, he has people do things wrong, but the only difference is when he has a deal go through, it's a much bigger payout than for you and I, at least right now.
Yeah.
And so we just need to figure out a way to change our mindset or whatever and get into bigger deals. Because what's the difference between like this developer I met yesterday at the gym? That was inspiring for me because he's telling me the story, which was really fun to hear. But he's building right next to them. They're building an $8 million home. And what's the difference between him doing that and me selling a deal for 10,000? The transaction is exactly the same. I mean, building a house is harder than wholesaling a house, but it's pretty much the same. But he just he decided to think bigger. So he's doing bigger deals.
It's like all these builders we work with in North Carolina. These guys are building $300,000 or $400,000 houses instead of $8 million houses. Like they could do either one.
Exactly. Exactly. We know a few great builders like Uriah and Bill and those guys, but that's primarily what they do. They build in that 300 to 500 range, I think, for the most part. And what's stopping them from going to the next level too? So it's all the same. So it's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that, and then I thought about another quote that I wanted to share for myself too. But I heard Matt Larson say this, and he said that scaling should decrease complexity in your business, not increase it. And that's a good reminder for me because when I think about hiring, I'm like, oh man, it's all this training, it's this. But no, scaling makes my life easier, and that's a belief I need to realize. Growing my business makes my life easier, not harder. It reduces my tasks on my plate. It reduces complexity in my business. It doesn't make things more complex and harder for me. So that's another belief I need to, just drill into my brain.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it really is. I mean, so much of it is mindset, and I can definitely use some more work on my mindset. I mean, we can always be improving it, but those are good points. The success doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. Things are always working out for me. If you start to say that, you'll start to see things working out for you. You start to see it more and more in every area. And yeah, and the scaling thing, I'm with you on that too. Like I've had the same resistance of like, oh man, I got to hire another person. I got to train them. I got to make sure, this and that. But
Yeah.
still have to get my mind around that. It makes it easier. And it does. If I look at it, really, it does, right? Like I'm doing less now than I was 2 years ago when I was doing a whole lot more aspects of the business. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the things I'm doing are different and more in my wheelhouse of like the high value activities. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, shall we wrap up the pod on that note, and we can, let's sign off on that. We'll do appreciations offline.
All right.